Parks.
We're the Guyman family.
We're the Martinez family.
We are the Raymond family.
We're the Merkleys, and this is Finn.
Say hi. Our story with Down syndrome began almost 6 years ago. We had a prenatal diagnosis with Finn at 14 weeks in the belly.
So our story with Down syndrome started around 18 weeks when I was pregnant with Roman. My quad screen had come back irregular, and that there was a high chance that Roman would have Down syndrome.
So our story with Down syndrome began when London was born.
When the pediatrician came in is when I found out. They were checking the vitals for London and told us that she has Down syndrome.
So our story of Down syndrome started with our fourth daughter, Tessa. It was a surprise diagnosis, and it was a fast and furious delivery. It was an emergency C-section.
So our story with Down syndrome, it began, I think, a little different than other people's stories because we didn't find out that Emery officially had Down syndrome until she was a month old. The pediatricians were like, oh, she's healthy, she's normal, she's perfectly fine. It was about 2 weeks later when I was sitting there and I finally called my pediatrician and I told him, I said, I need us to do a karyotype. So we went and we had her blood drawn, and 2 weeks later, on Christmas Eve, they called us and they told us that she had Down syndrome. I just wanted to quickly talk about what exactly a karyotype is. And a karyotype essentially identifies chromosomes. So for humans, we all have, most of us, we have 46 chromosomes. If you have Down syndrome, you have an additional chromosome. Here, trisomy 21. So you have an additional chromosome on the 21st chromosome, which makes you kind of a little extra special.
We didn't handle the diagnosis very well in the hospital. It wasn't because it was like a bad thing or negative. It was mostly because of how the hospital presented it to us, and it was very negative. But now I think if we got the diagnosis again, or if we were to do it over, I don't think it would be a problem. I think we'd be happy, actually.
So when we first received our diagnosis, we were afraid and we were worried and we were scared and we struggled with it. It was hard, and we were able to make contact with other families and other people who had Down syndrome that helped us come out of that place to help us to be really excited for what we were given.
If I could tell anyone about Down syndrome, I would tell them that it is like the best gift. We were so afraid at first, but the joy that she brings, not only to Rick and I, but to our whole family, is just amazing. Tessa is like the most loving, compassionate, sweet girl.
I think he just radiates joy. Like his smile is so good. That could light up the darkest soul.
If I could tell someone one thing about Down syndrome is it's not scary. I think that there's certain things that can be scary about Down syndrome, but there's certain things that can be scary about having any child, and not just a child with Down syndrome. Whether your child has Down syndrome or not, they're all going to go through trials and difficulties. Maybe we know ours ahead of time, but it doesn't make it any different.
If we could say one thing about you, what would it be? I know what it'd be. I think he just said it. Happy! You're happy! Good job. Yeah.
Raising a child with Down syndrome, I don't think is all that different. We expect kind of the same things from her as we do from other kids. Maybe not physically or, mentally at the same time, but we expect the same, I guess, results in the end.
We had decided, if we had more kids and we had a child with Down syndrome, we would welcome that child with open arms and be thrilled about it. Our other children actually, when we found out he didn't have Down syndrome, were very disappointed.
There were some tears.
They wanted another Tessa.
With Roman, I think it takes a little bit more focused attention.
Let's say just a delay.
Right, like it just might take him a little bit longer to learn things, but he still learns them and does them.
I feel like in a lot of ways, he's almost easier, just because he's pretty mellow, you know.
If you were to look up Down syndrome on Google, this is what my definition of Down syndrome would be. And it's not what you would see in any of the college biology textbooks. It is a picture of my daughter, and it is the definition of pure, unconditional love and joy.
If we were Google, what would our definition of Down syndrome be?
Just say like, welcome to this wild ride.
If I were to Google the definition of Down syndrome, my definition would say the best club that you never knew you wanted to be a part of.
So if I was to create my own definition for Down syndrome, if you were to Google it would be unconditional love.
I very much prefer that people ask the question. A lot of people feel like that's not appropriate to ask questions, and for us, we welcome those questions.
So ask questions, and maybe you don't know all the answers, but
Oh, I don't know what answer. So we're happy to talk about
but we're
it.
happy to talk about it and help spread awareness and help people understand that a Down syndrome diagnosis isn't scary.
One thing that I would like to say to new parents that are just receiving a diagnosis is congratulations. I think that's something that's missed too much. It's the greatest gift. And so you should be proud and you should be elated and you should understand that this is the best thing that will ever happen to your entire family.
So if I could, give some advice or say something to parents who had just had a diagnosis of a child with Down syndrome, I would congratulate them first and foremost, and then secondly, I would say it's going to be hard, but more joy than you've yet experienced awaits you in this child.
What I want to tell you is that wherever you are right now, it's okay. It's okay if you feel guilty. It's okay if you're angry. It's okay if you're miserable and scared and you don't want to do. Be with it. It's okay. And then do it. And you can do it.
I would never take away Down syndrome from her. I think it makes her who she is.
I mean, we like out. Like, how did I get the most beautiful little girl in the whole world,
There's not a chance in the world I would take Down syndrome from Tessa.
I wouldn't change a thing about her. We tell people all the time, we wouldn't wish cancer on anyone. Not our worst enemy, but we would wish Down syndrome on everyone because it's changed our lives in such a good way.
Would we take Down syndrome away from Finn? We wouldn't. Because Down syndrome is part of who he is and it makes him who he is.
Would I take Down syndrome away from London if I had the choice? I would definitely not change a thing.
Even though Down syndrome doesn't define London, it definitely is a big part of who she is, and I love everything about London.